Today I sit down with Tatum, a meat-loving student who feels deeply conflicted about what happens to animals. We discuss culture, nutrition, and I share more about my process of going vegan than I ever have before. I want to make it clear that I want this to be a collaborative conversation. You know, we're not trying to win or debate or anything like that. I just want to understand, your relationship to animals in this question and make the case for animal rights. So what are your initial thoughts on this statement? Why aren't you vegan yet?
Personally, I think people have the choice of going vegan, and I wouldn't say it's a bad thing. Definitely not. I mean, you do whatever you want, but the reason why I'm not vegan yet is because meat's just so good. I know you're on the other side of the argument, but
not necessarily.
Not necessarily?
Yeah,
okay.
I mean, sure. So yeah, it is absolutely a choice. I'm not going to disagree with you there. We have the choice to be vegan. We have the choice to not. The reason I would say be vegan is because I think we should take the animal's choice into account as well. But let's talk about the taste, right? I'm not going to say that animal products don't taste good. I mean, I was raised eating animals. So were the vegans I know. We didn't go vegan because we stopped enjoying the taste, right? Yeah. The reason we went vegan was because of a concern for animals. So do you think the taste pleasure you get from these products, does that justify the mutilation, confinement, essentially torture and slaughter of the animals?
That's kind of a complicated question in many ways.
Yep.
Because on one hand, some of these animals provide us energy and nutrients to many of our things. Like some of the stuff that they produce is stuff that we do need, like meat or eggs or anything like that. But for like harming animals, I don't like to admit it, but like I do hate the fact that animals do get hurt by it.
It sucks, right?
Yeah, because I mean, animals, they're like cute and all that, but like, I mean, like for example, like I love my dogs, I love them to death. I would never eat a dog,
right?
But if a cow was here, like just hypothetically, if I had a cow and like it was in my name, of course I wouldn't be cooking it because like they could also provide milk and all of that, which I mean I wouldn't consider that to be too bad.
Yeah, so first of all, I love that you acknowledge that, like, it is sad what we do to animals. You feel for them. I think that shows that you have a heart, right?
Yeah.
And as far as our world, we've kind of been culturally conditioned to view dogs and cats as individuals, cows, pigs, chickens, more as resources, right?
Yeah.
But is there any difference in those animals, in their ability to feel pain and suffer and have emotions?
They do feel those emotions, sadly, but I do think like people do use like drugs, some sort of drugs to like ease or like kind of like put them to sleep. So
not in the meat and dairy industry.
Oh really?
Yeah, no, that would be too expensive. They don't do that.
Okay, facts. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. But I mean, yeah, it is a very morally gray question. That it's a very overall, it's just a choice for everyone.
Absolutely.
I would say I feel for the animals for sure. I mean, I haven't been mutilated, obviously. But if I was like one of those animals, I understand their situation, and it is sad.
Yeah.
But sometimes, like, it is a very complicated question. For sure.
Yeah, and I appreciate that a lot of these questions are complicated and kind of challenging the worldview you've been raised with, right? Especially growing up in Texas. But yeah, when it comes to, you said something about milk not harming the cows. I just want to make it clear that in the dairy industry, they're all going to be slaughtered after a few years because their milk production declines. They're forcibly impregnated. Their babies are taken from them. They actually bond with their children for life. So dairy does cause suffering to the animals as well. Yeah, so you said it's morally gray, but it seems that we agree that there's a moral problem with what we do to animals, right?
I mean, there are like plant-based products too.
Yeah.
I haven't tried those yet, so I might go ahead and try them just in case.
Yeah, and while maybe you haven't tried the plant-based meat substitutes, you've certainly had some plant-based foods, right? Tortillas, peanut butter and jelly, pasta. Like a lot of the food you eat is probably already vegan. Maybe you just don't necessarily think of it as being vegan. But you said something about like getting nutrients from animals. And yeah, while we do get nutrients from eating animals, do we have to get those nutrients from animals, or can we get them from plants?
I think certain things that we get from animals we can't get from plants.
Like what?
For example, milk. That's kind of... Well, I haven't really been following a lot of like the news sources, so I'm not entirely reliable on this source.
Well, milk it's not a nutrient. It's a like a food. So the nutrients in milk, like calcium or whatever, can we get those from plants?
I don't think so.
Okay, you can, yeah. I mean, so I'm vegan. I've been vegan for years. There are a lot of people who have been vegan for decades, right? Clearly, we're alive. And all the biggest nutritionist organizations in the United States, Canada, these are groups of nutritionists that are not vegan. They've said that vegan diets are healthy and adequate for all stages of life, including pregnancy. So we can absolutely get the nutrients we need from plants. Okay. Does that change anything about how you think about it?
Sort of. I do think... I mean, I'll do a little more research. Yeah, I could, obviously.
Yeah.
But I think there are some ways where I think it's kind of impossible to get certain nutrients.
Like what nutrients?
Well, like what you said, calcium is kind of something...
No, I was saying that you can get calcium from plants.
Oh, okay, sorry. Oh, yeah, because like there is some like grass stuff, like some grass-based milk somewhere.
I mean, there's like grass-fed milk, but no, you can get calcium from broccoli, kale, spinach, tofu. There are a number of plants that have calcium. Like I said, there's nothing that's inherent to animal products that you can't get on a plant-based diet. So what about like the fact that it's cultural? Do you think that morally justifies what we do to animals?
I wouldn't say that I entirely agree with it, but since we kind of come from a background where we did like prey and all of that.
Yep.
So like foxes, cows, rabbits, all that. So it that goes way back, like centuries ago.
Thousands of years, yeah.
Yeah, thousands of years, but even like cavemen,
right?
Or something like that. Like the Stone Age, we went and hunted food.
Certainly. Do you think that justifies doing it now? Like, yeah, we had to eat animals in times of food scarcity to get to the point that we are in now, right? We also did a lot of other things that we wouldn't necessarily consider moral. I mean, we committed genocides, we murdered each other to get to this point as well. We relied on child labor and slave labor to kind of build up this country. So the fact that we did it in the past, do you think that provides justification to continue to do so when we don't need to?
Well, there is kind of a difference
right.
in between. Because humans, we are like... feeling human beings, like also animals are too, but we have the power to speak our thoughts and all of that. So it's like it's kind of, again, putting in this like morally gray situation where it's like, yeah, the sort of stuff that you like mentioned, like child labor and all of that, that there are certain parts of the world where that's still going on, and in a perfect world we would get rid of those things. Right. But but there's always going to be like certain places that are just never going to stop doing that. Yeah.
Right. And I mean, obviously there's always going to be people who murder each other, right? But we shouldn't necessarily murder people or try not to stop it. So animals can't speak. They obviously don't have language in the same way we do. I personally, like my dog can understand some things I say. He knows when we're going for a walk. But do you think moral consideration should be predicated on someone's ability to speak?
First of all, I should have reworded that question. I'm not great with wording things properly. Yes, animals can speak. They're mostly sounds like commands and all of that, and they do understand what we do. I have 4 dogs, so they understand certain cues and all of that. So yeah, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there are differences between humans and animals, right? We have the ability to rationalize certain behaviors, and it's for that reason that I think that we should seriously think about what we're doing to other species. Obviously, we have power over other species, but Do you think that power that we have, does that justify dominating other species?
I don't think so, but like I feel like you kind of ran me into a corner right now where it's just like I've always, because I come from a conservative family, but we do have like liberal tendencies where we're like it's just like we understand certain parts of the world are not going to change, and we do accept a lot of what's changed and all of that.
Yeah.
But for animals, there are certain types of animals, like I'm just saying this because of like what our culture has said
right.
a lot of the time, where there are certain animals where we have pets,
right,
but then there's also like cattle and all of that.
We've created a societal distinction, right?
Yeah, it's kind of like classification in a way.
Right, yeah. But we agreed that doesn't actually represent the difference in the animal's ability to feel pain and, not want to die, right?
Yeah.
And in terms of being conservative, obviously I respect that, and that kind of comes with the idea of being a bit more traditional, right?
Yeah.
And I just want to make the point that what we do to animals today is completely unprecedented. This factory farming system has been around less than 100 years. We're breeding them by the billions. They grow 300% faster than they did back in the day. So, there's nothing traditional about what we're currently doing to animals. But do you think there is like a humane way to kill an animal when they don't want to or need to die?
I would say maybe euthanization would probably be the one only option.
Yeah.
But like I would still feel like if I was being euthanized, I would kind of still feel the pain in a way.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right that euthanasia is about as humane as it gets, right? Like if you, like your dogs, if the unfortunate day comes when they have to be put down, they're going to be euthanized. Would you consider taking them to a slaughterhouse to be put down, do you think?
Oh, no.
Right.
Well, but like dogs are meant to be like a pet, like
in our culture.
Yeah, in our culture. And you are bringing up like some counter arguments that I am like questioning. But like if it was a cow, we would like if it was euthanized, I feel like we would have to worry about the drugs within that.
They can euthanize animals in the meat industry because it would ruin the meat. Yeah, exactly. So kind of back to the culture point. Yes, we think of dogs as pets. There are some cultures where they raise dogs to eat them, right?
Yeah.
But once again, that doesn't change the animal's ability to feel pain and suffer. Like they're going to suffer either way. Yeah.
Yeah, they are going to suffer in a way, but if we were going to do it as humanely as possible, it would be euthanasia at best.
Which we can't do in the meat industry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if there was a way that the U.S. could somehow, like, kind of make a bill in a way to make it somewhat humane, a little more humane for those animals.
Well, they do claim it's humane. Slaughterhouses say they use humane methods, but humane means compassionate, right? Yeah. Do you think you can compassionately kill an animal when they don't want to or need to die?
Not exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So we agree humane slaughter is a bit of an oxymoron, right? Yeah.
Well, it's just how the world works in a way.
Sure.
Like, I'm not saying that I 100% agree of the tendencies that we use.
Yeah.
The amount of, like, options that we do have to, like, put down an animal.
Right.
I think, obviously, I'm sounding like a broken record, but like euthanasia, if it was put in the meat industry in some way, shape, or form, I think it would probably be the best way of doing it. But
yeah, I mean,
I can understand your viewpoint and all of that, which I'm not saying that your viewpoint is invalid or anything. It's just
totally.
I think differently, and I'm sure you.
Let me ask you this, right? Like, obviously, we have worse ways of killing animals, which we could say, I don't know, skinning them alive, which is common in the fur industry. We could say that's really bad. Then we have maybe better ways of killing animals, maybe stunning them and then like shooting them in the head or some like a less bad way.
Yeah.
But we also have a third option, which is to not kill the animals at all. So of those three options, which do you think would be morally preferable?
Could you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
Yeah. So we have the really bad way to kill animals, the less bad way to kill animals, or not killing them at all. So which would be the most moral of those three options?
Well, the way you're wording the question, it's making me lean towards a certain answer, which I think, yes, in a perfect world, we wouldn't be killing animals at all.
Sure. Yeah, I agree.
But I think it's because of my lifestyle. Like, there are certain foods that I would miss.
Right.
Even though that there are plant-based options, which I'll I'll go ahead and give it a try.
That's awesome.
Like, if you, like, just to see if, like, can plants really, like...
Be good.
Yeah, so, like,
Yeah.
it's just my way of thinking that I obviously I see your side of the story.
Yeah.
Like, I do think that we shouldn't kill animals, or at least I'm trying to word this in a way that doesn't make me look bad. Where, like, the less I would say the worst it can be for me would be, like, the less painful way of killing animals. But in a perfect world, we wouldn't be killing these animals to begin with.
Yeah, and I mean, you're absolutely right. The world that we live in is a cruel one, especially cruel to animals. The thing that I like to talk about is that, you know, the world changes, right? We have the power to change the world. Most people are exactly like you. Like, yes, they eat meat, but they feel for animals and they don't want them to suffer. So we do have a bit more agency than I think a lot of people realize, and that's why we're here at this university, because while we're not going to get everyone to go vegan, we would just need a certain percentage of the population, and then it becomes easier, it becomes more convenient, the options become tastier, and more people jump on board. But, like, do you think the world would be better if we did evolve away from using animals as resources?
It is difficult to really imagine that, but
Right.
I think if we did find better ways of making certain products, then yeah, I say let's give it the good old college try.
Right.
And, you know, give it a try, because animals are living beings, so it's like
Yeah.
it is that morally gray side again, where it's like it's kind of in the weird middle where it's like, yeah, they produce certain things, but also we're killing living things at the same time.
Yeah, we're killing them by the billions when we don't need to. And, you know, talking about products you would miss, I understand. I mean, there are some things that I miss sometimes, but I found the vegan food, you know, I enjoy it more. I'm more adventurous. You know, most people eat the same 3 dead animals over and over. Meanwhile, we've got over 40,000 edible plants. But my favorite food before I was vegan was nachos. My favorite food is still nachos. I just use cashew queso instead of dairy cheese, and black beans instead of beef, you know?
If it's okay for me to ask you a question.
Absolutely, yeah.
When was the last time that you ate something from, like, a cow or rabbit or anything like that? From any animal?
From any animal. Actually, yeah, it's kind of weird because it's an animal I don't typically ever really eat. And it was the night that I started going vegan, I read this ebook by a guy named Earthling Ed. He's like a vegan activist, and it's called 30 Non-Vegan Excuses and How to Respond to Them. And it was all the reasons I had in my head for not being vegan, like it's inconvenient or I like the taste, and just all of them were totally debunked. And then me and my husband ordered dinner, and we got food from this Mediterranean place, and I ordered like a vegetarian sandwich because I hadn't gotten to the dairy section of the ebook yet, and he ordered lamb. And then I ate my vegetarian sandwich. I had a bite of his lamb leg, and then I went vegan the next day. I watched a documentary that showed what happens to the animals in the industry. So, yeah, the last thing I had was lamb, oddly enough.
I was just curious because, like, I wanted to know, like, when was this? And, like, how long have you been doing? Because you said years.
Yeah.
I'm questioning, like, how long have you been doing this?
Yeah, absolutely. So I went vegan about 3.5 years ago. It was during quarantine because I learned a lot of the other problems with animal agriculture. For example, 75% of new diseases jump from animals to humans, which means by keeping animals by the billions in factory farms, we're exponentially increasing the risk of pandemics.
Gotcha.
There's also, you know, animal agriculture is the second biggest cause of climate change behind fossil fuels, and just a lot of stuff related to that. And so, yeah, I kind of started learning about that. I went to the vegan subreddit, but really the thing that changed me was watching that documentary. But yeah, that was over 3.5 years ago. I started advocating pretty quickly because I think that I wish I had someone sit down and have a conversation with me before. Like, my biggest regret is not going vegan sooner. And that's how a lot of vegans feel. And I wish that, like, I guess I wish someone had told me how easy it was. Like, I kind of sold myself short. I'm kind of a lazy person. I value convenience. I love the taste. So if someone had told me, like, you know, you can be lazy and you can be vegan, and it's not nearly as hard as you think, and just kind of take a look at what's happening to the animals, I wish that someone had told me that.
Would you say the book of that was?
Yeah, it's called 30 Non-Vegan Excuses and How to Respond to Them.
I'm interested to see, like, because I do want to see the other side of the argument a little more in depth.
Yeah.
Because right now, respectfully, I do disagree. But that's
On what grounds?
Well, it's mostly like my lifestyle. Like I've been eating meat ever since I came out of the womb, basically.
Yeah, so was I.
Yeah. So, but I do think there are yes, it sucks that animals do get killed. Like, trust me, I do understand that.
Yeah.
But I feel like there are certain animals that we need to survive off of, if you get what I mean. Like, sure, you don't agree with me.
Why do you believe that?
Well, it's because, like, it's based on, like, history and all of that. And sure, we can change history now.
Yep.
But that's been, like, thousands of years of, like, history of, like, hunting and all.
When we talk about history, you know, there are also many societies throughout history that didn't eat any animal products, Jainists, Buddhists. But when it comes to our decisions about what to eat, we shouldn't be looking to history. We should look at nutrition, right?
That's true.
It's a science of nutrition. History is unrelated.
I understand that. It's just like I will do research.
Yeah.
On this.
And I think that's great. I'd rather have you look into it yourself than just listen to some random person, right? Yeah. If you found out that you could be healthy as a vegan, then would you go vegan?
Yeah, of course.
Awesome. Yeah.
So, I mean, I'll give it a try and see how I like it.
Yeah.
I do still feel bad for the animals and all of that.
Yeah.
But I'll at least give it a chance.
That's awesome. And I really appreciate that you're, a kind, compassionate person. And I can tell that you do care about animals. And that's great. Like, that's,
I just want to say, like, I do understand the perspective.
Yeah.
It's just that I obviously, due to background, like, I've been eating a lot of meat and all of that.
Yeah.
But I am open to going vegan, so I will give it a try. And I do respect your side of this argument.
Awesome.
And I think this was a very interesting conversation that we had. Yeah. I'll look into it a little more. I'll check out that book.
Hell yeah.
And thank you for letting me on here and just talking.
Thank you so much, Tatum. This was an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'll give you some more resources as well. If you enjoyed this, hit that like button. If you want to support my work, join my Patreon. Special thanks to my morally superior patrons, and I'll see you next Friday.